Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about 3 short books and then link this to another video that has to do with the Paragon Hotel by Lyndsay. So let's hope that technology works. So the first 2 books I wanted to talk to you about, the first one is Diary of a Young Naturalist by Zeta Elliott. Now, I believe that he won the Wainwright Prize for Nature Writing, and somewhere in his world, this young man who has done a number of things for environmental issues and conservation. And this is a diary format of his time in an isolated area in Ireland. And I didn't read it. And for me, when I read a nature book, I am more interested on the sort of scientific, arm's length approach of things. I don't love when the naturalist writer is really present in the story. And Zeta Elliott is completely 100% present in this story. And he is taking his observations and he's turning them into poetic prose, and he's having sometimes very emotional responses to what he's seeing or experiencing, and that's just not my writing style. I don't love it. I know there've been a lot of books that have been recommended by Tor Hansen, I think, Seed, and a couple of others that I have read 1 or 2, and again, like, he's even more removed than Zeta is, but I just don't love it. So this book is not for me. I think it's good for a certain kind of reader, and it has received many positive reviews elsewhere. And I think that if you're interested in this book, you should go and seek those out, because I'm just not the person to love this book. However, you know, you can't love everything. This book was one of the ones, Root Magic, by Eden Royce, that I was just waiting for it. Had been recommended to me by 2 different booktubers about a year ago, I think, and on their video blogs. I think it was Redhead Reading and That's So Poe. They really enjoyed it, and I really liked the premise of this book. And it's another book I didn't finish, and I can't figure out why. There's something about the writing style that it's all about the writing style, because I love the premise of the story. There's 2 young children in 1963, they're twins, and their grandmother has just passed away, and their Uncle Doc is taking over her role as the local herbalist, medicinalist, root magic person, and the twins want to know about it. They're 11 years old, and they're just coming to that time of life where they've been kind of protected from this aspect of their heritage, because it's the magical part of it is something that has gone down through the generations, and for some reason Mother has decided that they are not to be very exposed to this, and once Grandma has passed away, then it's time to get the knowledge moving to the next generation. So that's about as far as I got in the story. Something's going to happen. The twins have to resolve it. There's something that happens out in the swamp areas. This is taking place in the deep south and on an island, like a coastal island. And yeah, there's something about the way she wrote it that I'm not loving, and I'm usually I can push past that in a middle. This is for middle readers, and I can just usually push past it, because the storylines and the characters are usually so interesting or entertaining that I can, Anyways, it didn't work for me. Again, this is another one where if you're looking for a different kind of an opinion on this, you're going to have to search elsewhere, because the writing style just stopped me. And that isn't to say that other people wouldn't like it, because I do think that the characters were both Jezebel, whose nickname is Jez, and her brother Jay are both charming young people, and just didn't work for me. On the opposite side of the coin is Dragons in a Bag by Zeta Elliott. Now, she's written a number of other books that I do not have here, but she's also won awards. And I am going to pursue her as an author because I found this to be just the funnest little book. Jackson is a young boy of about 9 years old. His mom is facing eviction from her apartment. She's got one of those landlords, hell on wheels kind of a landlord who's doing his best to evict them. So she's going to court to try and get some kind of stay order. So as a result, he has to go and stay with an elderly woman who's called Ma. And Jackson has never met this lady before, and Ma has at some point fostered Jackson's mother. And so they do have the mom and the Ma and the mama have got some kind of past history, as does Jackson's grandfather, who we meet in the story as it progresses. And Ma has received a package in the mail from Madagascar that contains some mysterious items. And it's not to be opened. Under any circumstances, it's not to be opened. And as the story turns along, we realize that Ma is connected to a very earthbound kind of magic. And there are dragons in her handbag. And Jackson is called upon to help Ma handle the dragons to get them where they need to be, where they will be the safest, as well as she needs a new apprentice, and he kind of volunteers himself. He kind of voluntells her that he's going to be her apprentice, whether she likes it or not. And so she's not too sure about that because she knows who his mom is, and that didn't go so well back in the past. So Jackson's in this interesting dilemma of, he's only 9, he's off on this magical journey through a teleporter, time dimension, space dimension kind of porter, and they end up back where the pterodactyls are, and like, he's just a pretty scared kid. But Ma's just pretty, yeah, okay, we'll be fine. And in the end, of course, they are more or less fine, but Jackson has had quite a scare, and so he's back in New York, where he's got to solve problems on his own, because can't tell you, but he's on his own. And he has the 3 dragons that are not to imprint on anybody else. So of course you know that there's going to be some kind of crazy stuff is going to happen with the dragons, and you know that Jackson has to solve his dilemma and find Ma and deal with his mom and his new grandfather that's just shown up. And one of the things I loved about this story, which, like, the plot line was really terrific. The pacing was very good. The characters are of themselves. I mean, there's just no time in this book. It's very short. It's 150 pages. Not a ton of time for any real character development, except for Jackson. He's the central point of the story. And so we see the people around him are definitely very purposeful. They really, if it weren't for them, he wouldn't kind of get these little growth steps along the way. Jackson does have a certain amount of character development, but this is an open-ended ending, which we do not get too much in any kind of writing, I would think. I mean, most of the time we get, especially in Western writing, we get a closed story loop. And I think this is really fascinating. I would love to know what a classroom of kids think about the ending of this book, because it leaves them with the adventure still pending. There's still so many things for Jackson to accomplish. And yet, there is not that kind of pulling of hair tension at the end. It's like, okay, we are who we are, we got to do what we've got to do, but it's time for dinner and a nap. You know, it's not, well, not quite like that, but yeah, I think that it's fascinating the way she has finished this. And it was written, I did check to see whether there was going to be a sequel, but I think it was written in 2018, and so far there's nothing coming, so it's just one book as far as I know. So as I said, I'm going to follow her up for next year, put her on my list of authors to peek into. And I think, now am I telling you a lie when I say she's also done essays and poetry. She's done some YA fantasy. Yeah, I thought maybe she'd done some adult writing, but not. Anyhow, I think we'll be back talking about Zeta Elliott. All right. Okay, so the last book I'm going to talk to you about is The Paragon Hotel, that was written by Lyndsay Faye, and she was the author of Jane Steele, and I believe that this book is the book that comes just after Jane Steele. What I had not realized was that she has 5 other books, including plus Jane Steele, and this is about a young girl who's gone off to, was it New York? Yeah, it was New York, wasn't it? Sorry?
Portland.
Portland. Portland. No, that's not right.
Oh, she grew up in New York. She went to Portland.
Yes, I'm sorry. I got I was going to tell you a completely different story from an entirely different book. That's what happens when you read so much. You think, oh, okay, wrong story, right title. Okay, she has grown up in Harlem, New York, and she is sort of she's very connected to the underworld, and she gets embroiled with someone, the mafia or the Italian mafia or the equivalents, and so she's, I guess, sort of a gun moll, if you like, and her job is to be an eavesdropper, and so with that she's going to, and then a tattletale, and although she's not supposed to be that obvious, and so in the course of her short life she has managed to reveal significant things to one of the 2 different combatants for the underground criminal things, and so they managed to become more powerful than the other group. So she's very essential to the first group, and over time we realize that she may or may not be the daughter of the fellow who's in charge of this gang. Something happens I don't want to give anything away, but something really not nice happens, and she ends up on a train to Portland, Seattle, and she has a suitcase full of money that she earned legitimately, if you can be a criminal and earn it legitimately. And yeah, I think she earned it fair and square. And she's got 2 gunshots in her, and she's getting to Portland, and the porter, who in those days they were all called George, regardless as to what their real names were, and I think his real name was Maximilian. And he takes her off the train and he gets her to the Paragon Hotel, which is the only hotel in Portland that is available for people of color. And like the whole city, this is the one and only place that travelers or people who can't afford rents, and that it's both a hotel and sort of a rooming house kind of combination. And it does a fairly good job of being, has a good restaurant and it has a good night cafe, and the rooms are nice and so on. So it's actually a fairly good hotel, just no white people. Well, perhaps I didn't say this, and perhaps you assumed that our protagonist, Alice, whose nickname is Nobody, you would think perhaps she was a girl of color because she was in Harlem, but no, she's from the Irish, white Irish. And so she's the only white person in this Paragon Hotel, and a little boy goes missing. So as she becomes more healed, she gets to know the owners and the people who are the employees, and Maximilian comes back, and the little boy, and then the little boy is kidnapped, and by this time she has relationships with everybody. Hello, sweetie. And she decides to try and do some of the investigation for where is this missing boy. And simultaneously, the Ku Klux Klan is coming into the Portland and is trying to make a presence known. The header of each chapter is kind of interesting because there are these different organizations or newspapers or essayists who are making the case for why Oregon should have absolutely no Negroes or people of color of any color in that state. And so we get these little glimpses of, and I believe they're actual, I don't think she's made anything up. So they are at the heading of each chapter, you get to see this deep racism, and then the lives of the people who are trying to function around that racism. And then this little boy goes missing, and people are looking in a certain parkland area that is owned by white people, and so, you know, it's an uprising of the blacks. Whoa, whoa, Ku Klux Klan, lots of tension, jazz clubs, lots of people, you know, some people are sick or some people are addicted. Some things are really gruesome. There is really a couple of gruesome things in there. It's a very syncopated writing style. I think that's the part that is really causes this book to stand out from the others. The plot line is interesting, but the characters are very much Harlem-esque or tough girl-esque or like placating to the white people and so on. But there's, yeah, it's very interesting. Huge range of relationships between black and white and black and male and female and same gender or, you know, expressions and sexualities. And so really very interesting cast of characters, and the writing style is also very interesting, and it has this sort of jazz-like syncopated rhythm to the writing, although as you read it you become more in tune with the syncopation, so it starts feeling like just, you know, a little bit like a train, like a so you get that kind of pacing in the language, in the descriptions, and in the plot lines as well. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5, mostly because I didn't 100% buy Alice at the Paragon Hotel. It just went on for a number of weeks or months that she was there, and being a white girl with a suitcase full of money, I understood that she made friends with people because she was that kind of person. She just that old word that causes so much trouble, but colorblind, you know, she just, everybody is who they are, and she just functions within that kind of a framework. But the people who run the hotel are like, oh, we got this white girl here, it's gonna cause trouble sooner or later. So I think she overstays her welcome, and yeah, so I just, that part, her being in that hotel, I think was, for me, starting to not feel right towards the end of the book. Anyhow, the author does what the author wants to do, and it's a good book, and it certainly gives you many, many things to think about. And yeah, another book that I really recommend. I did read this right at the same time as that period when I was telling you about the book Passing and Angela Davies and the Jacqueline Woodson book. I've forgotten what the name was. So that's about 2 videos ago. So I was reading this at the same time. And again, I didn't plan this, but it gives a whole other picture on what lives of people of color was like in a different part of the States, and with a different kind of prejudice, because most of the people in this book are employed, have decent wages, and are, you know, like highly functioning individuals. There's no reason for them to be treated like a goomba or a goofball or a stoopy-doop, you know, like these are people of personal integrity and intelligence. So it's just interesting to see how other books I've read, people are in the position of a sharecropper, or, you know, so people in America, they seem to give each other permission to be really nasty to poor people. Well, these are poor people. So we see what the racism is like against people of, let's just say, the middle class, but yeah. Anyhow, that's it for me. I hope you have a really, really good week. I'll be back next week with who knows what, and perhaps you'll see Missy. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah, don't forget, I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true. Bye-bye.